Craig McLaughlin and check 1 2.
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Okay, we're back, episode 2. See, we didn't change T-shirts. I told you we wouldn't. But this is weeks later. We just happen to be wearing the same T-shirts.
Dry cleaning, done, dusted.
Yeah, we're in the age of 1 hour dry cleaners and stuff. So
you're...
This is me, JVT.
And I'm D... vein thrombosis.
This is my brother Dave, DVT.
DVT.
In my Public Image Limited T-shirt. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so we are in an unknown location in regional Victoria.
Yeah, which no one will ever know.
That's right.
With the Yamaha guitar in the
unless
in the corner,
you're in Traralgon,
and the Magpie stained glass, which is magnificent.
Yeah, it's just
out of Magpies,
somewhere.
Collingwood Football Club. So episode 2. Last episode, our first episode, our maiden voyage, we talked about our early 70s influences.
What a great time.
What we should do is talk about the later 70s.
Oh, what an even greater time.
You got your microphone on?
Yeah, I have. I've got a red
I'm just trying to watch
so
these levels in here.
Yeah, I think those levels are going okay. We're talking about the late 70s, aren't
we? Yeah, so around 76 up to 1980, I reckon.
Yeah, just before the period of FM radio.
Yeah,
in a big way.
So you had 3XY was probably the dominant rock and roll station in Melbourne. Then was 2SM in Sydney.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the
5KA or whatever it was.
Yeah, and
6. Whatever it was, I don't know.
Brisbane.
I remember Shirley used to yell them out at one stage. But
four something in Brisbane. Yeah, they always
the Rocktober period.
Yeah. I'm not sure actually own that.
I think the Catholic Church owned 3XY at one stage.
Did they? Yeah, right. Well, 3XY rocks Melbourne. They used to have Rocktober.
So we're talking about the mid 70s, and I think one of the
Cheers.
Yeah, we touched on this in the previous episode where we talked about some of those iconic Australian bands that were, the staple of Aussie life back then. But really, there were a number of international acts that started to really have an impact.
And we're still talking about the Countdown era because Countdown was probably at its peak, 75, 76.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one that comes to mind was ABBA. I mean, there were others, the Bay City Rollers and a few others like that. But
Bay City Rollers from Scotland, but they're all sort of put together.
They were kind of your second or third tier. But
I mean, you had Bjorn and Benny writing these sophisticated songs in Sweden, and they had their 2 great-looking women singing them for them, so you couldn't go wrong.
Those jumpsuits were fantastic.
Yeah. And it was always, do you like the blonde one or the dark-haired one?
Yeah, look, even though they were both the same age as their mum or something, but that's beside the point. Yeah, it's a bit of a shock.
Different perspective there, doesn't it? Yeah. But they're very attractive young lasses, let's put it that way.
But anyway, and look, if you do the research on ABBA, one of the things they say is that the country that broke them really was Australia.
Yep, absolutely.
And we're talking about the music show Countdown, Molly Meldrum.
Ian Meldrum, who was a DJ journalist in the 60s, into the 70s, and the ABC got him his own...
he was the talent coordinator, and his role was to pull that whole show together, and he was probably that real sort of musical networker, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so we've got ABBA, who, at the 1973... Eurovision
Song contest with Waterloo, I think it was.
Yep, representing Sweden. Yeah. Waterloo was their...
was their song.
Yeah, and it was kind of like... It had that sort of Acker-Built type sound, didn't it?
Waterloo, and then
a bit of honky-tonk
and a bit of saxophone.
Yeah, so... And surprisingly, that stuff... I think the thing with ABBA is it resonated across generations.
Yeah.
So young kids loved ABBA.
ABBA concerts, you'd see everyone there. Little kids to old people.
Parents, grandparents.
They were safe.
Yeah, they were a safe bet. I mean, they were wholesome.
Because, 1976, we're talking 76 when they were absolutely at their peak. There was an album called ABBA Arrival, and they were sitting there in this glassed helicopter. Looking fantastic.
Yep, in a field somewhere.
I remember I bought the cassette, and I had to borrow a couple of bucks from Ma to make up the...
They'd probably just been to IKEA, actually, in that photo.
Probably. They were pissed off because the Allen key wasn't working. There was a bit missing out.
Could have been a helicopter or a Volvo back then, really.
I think that might have been an IKEA helicopter.
Could have been.
No, I don't think so. Maybe
a kit helicopter.
But yeah, I remember the cassette. I think I bought the cassette, and that was probably the first
Polar
band, they were more of a pop group, I suppose. But that was probably the first cassette I bought by myself of a group.
Yeah, they were on the Polar label.
Polar. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and that ABBA Arrival was like, it's one of those classic albums, not one bad song.
No, it was, there was
that NAF, that last one that was a bit sort of weird, but the rest
there were probably at least 5 or 6 singles.
There was heaps.
All top 10s probably, yeah.
Okay, then that
earworm. They were huge everywhere. America, Europe, probably Asia, Africa, everywhere.
I think Dancing Queens is the song that most people remember off that album, but the one that was certainly the earworm was Fernando.
Yeah, can you?
It was like number one for like 15 weeks or something. It was just annoying after a while.
Our dad was a principal of our primary school, and so much so that there was like 3 or 4 minutes you had to get in line at the end of lunchtime. He'd play Dancing Queen over the PA system.
There was a bit of musical stimulation to get the learning juices flowing into the second half of the day.
Ooh.
You like that?
Ooh. Yeah, I wish I had understood that at the time.
It was all about improving one's scholastic
stimulation. Well, we'll get to ONE in a few episodes.
That's right, we will.
Yeah, I never thought you'd be that bold, though. All right, so ABBA, they'd go through to what, mid-80s, maybe not that far.
Yeah, I think once you got around sort of 82 and that sort of Super Trooper, that was probably the tail end of ABBA.
Yeah,
and then I think what was the brunette's name again?
Agnetha.
No, Frida.
Oh, yeah. Frida.
Frida had a bit of a slight sort of...
She had a couple of singles. She was
talk about that later on.
She was always pretty hot.
I know something's going on.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
Yeah, she was always pretty hot.
So, but, at this stage, we're still, records, you've got Countdown, you've got radio, you've got record shops, and that was the whole thing pulled together. Colour TV, big, everyone's going out buying colour TV.
Yeah, well, our grandparents, our dad's parents, they had the first colour TV I can remember in our family.
Magnificent furniture piece.
Yeah, the Rank Arena.
The Rank Arena.
On the swivel, the mid-century sort of trendy 60s.
Looked like an office chair base.
Yeah. It was like one of those Herman Miller chairs. The Eames chair, that sort of setup. Yeah.
Suspended off the floor for easy vacuum.
Yeah. Sorry about that. The level's got to be high.
It was in the days when VHF was the only signal.
Yeah. Did that have 5A on the dial?
5A was on there as well.
No one watched 5A. Yeah, they didn't have UHF on it.
No UHF on that earlier set.
No.
And certainly, that changed everything. I mean, you had so many, things like sport even made the most of that change to colour. I mean, there was
the first VFL Grand Final, the Australian Rules Footy Grand Final was on 77, I think that
certainly made it a lot easier to watch that 77 Grand Final with two vertical striped teams playing each other. But we won't go there. It was very painful.
Our team losing the eventual replay of the drawn Grand Final. But we
just
won't
like this year, but anyway.
So, we were still buying cassettes too because we didn't have a record player. So
no, we didn't have a record
cassettes
player.
By then.
We were reliant on cassettes, which certainly had their benefit because we had our own little cassette player and we were able to buy blank cassettes and record songs off.
And I reckon a lot of kids were buying cassettes rather than the vinyl album.
That transport ability of cassettes before the days of the Walkman.
Yep, and at that time we'd moved down to. Not far out, about an hour out of south of Melbourne on the seaside. Yeah, there's a place called Crib Point. We used to Hastings was the nearest big town, and it had the record store we'd go to. When Mum and Dad would go into shopping on a Friday night to Half Case or wherever it was in Warwick. If any in Hastings, you remember if you're from that area, you remember Half Case. I don't know why you'd want to buy half a case of stuff.
I just want to buy 10 boxes of breakfast cereal.
Yeah,
as I can.
But they were the pioneers because you got Costco now, but
60 rolls of toilet paper.
All of us remember Half Case. Costco are just
Half
Johnny
Case
come
was bare bones, black texture type signs in the store.
Was it like a membership thing? I don't know.
No, I don't think it was. There's a Half Case store right near your door. No, that was another.
You could buy 20 cans of Tresca or Tab or something like that.
Yeah, Coke, whatever it was. Yeah, they had bad stuff in the 70s.
Yeah. But we always are RC Colas.
Yeah.
The people mixer. Anyway, the Hastings was the town we used to go to, the record bar or the record store or whatever it was called.
Right.
I can't remember the actual name of the
the name escapes me as well, but I remember it being a fairly dingy looking place. But they had the top 40 or the top 10, I think.
Yeah, you'd walk in the front door and there was the clearly the EMI salesman or something had given them the rack to sit in the front door in the corner, so everyone had sort of go to that and say, oh, what's the number one record this week? Oh, it's...
That's right, you have the 3XY chart sheet.
Yeah, it's I Like It Both Ways by Supernaut or something like that.
Apparently they did.
Yeah.
So records, 45 singles, big seller.
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably that era, the equivalent of downloading a song now or even just listening to something on Spotify or whatever it might be.
Yep. Yeah.
And... a lot of other.
But you could also buy them. I don't know if you can now, but singles and albums were in the supermarket as well.
They were.
So Coles.
So typical of supermarkets trying to take another bit of product from others.
Yeah.
They started moving away from just having the 1950s and 1960s specials to
usually near the cigarette stand there was the record bar.
The cigarette bar would normally have the record area and. I'm not sure. Did they have singles in the supermarket as well?
Maybe, probably. You'd reckon the reps from all the record companies to go to them as well.
I'll have a pack of Winfield 20s, thanks, and Winfield Blue or Red, one or the other.
Paul
and
Hogan.
I'll grab that great new single by JP Wine.
Which would have been what back then?
I Hate the Music.
I Hate the Music.
Like that. They all had that same beat.
Yeah, and then he had people around the world probably remember him later on. What was that movie? Muriel's Wedding, Lovers in the Air.
Lovers in the Air,
which was a hit around the world, I think.
Lovers in the Air.
John Paul Young, born in England, moved to Australia as a young fella, I think.
He did. Yeah.
Like a lot of those, the old 5 pound poms or whatever they all came out.
A few of those
integrated to Australia. The Young brothers from Scotland.
The way to integrate was to play some music. The Easy Beats, Red Simons, the Bee Gees.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Joe Camilleri, guys. The Maltese.
The Maltese Falcon.
Absolutely.
A lot of kids, that was their way into fitting into society, was to grab an instrument and be very good at it. So.
But then, when did Mum and Dad buy a record? When did we get our first record player?
They had this little funny box one that had the record player, and you lifted the lid up and the lid detached and it became the speaker.
Right.
It had a little sliding area where you could fit a couple of 45s. I don't know whether you remember that. It was an HMV one.
His master.
It even had the little flip over stylus for 75 and 33, 45.
That wasn't when an arm had come out and clipped to the top of the record.
This was almost designed to be a transportable.
Yeah. Okay.
You could take it on your Sunday picnic.
Was it a 3-in-1? Did it play cassettes?
No, it was only I don't think it had a radio either. I think it was just solely a record player.
Yeah, right.
So they had that. It was pretty naff, really.
Yeah.
But I think it was around the summer of 78, 79.
The summer of 78.
John, who's I can't remember his last name now, the guy who founded JB Hi-Fi.
Oh, okay, right.
Out at Keilor. And back in those days...
Keilor in the northwestern suburbs of Melbourne, towards the
done
airport.
It again.
Yeah.
It was very much a warehouse where he would have, maybe 5 or 6 different amplifiers all stacked up in boxes on a pallet, and he would undercut everyone price-wise. So
yes.
I think the parents went out there and bought from memory, the amplifier and the cassette deck.
Okay, so the amplifier was a Kenwood?
Yep, a KA 3300, I think, from memory.
Yeah, you can see that.
A Trio Kenwood, actually. It was in the days before Kenwood went a little bit nasty, cheap and nasty.
Right.
It was sort of a medium
So what would have been
amplifier.
what would have been the equivalent then to like the rival Marantz, those companies or not?
Yeah, I think Marantz was certainly in that space.
Sony maybe.
Sony perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, but the cassette deck was a Sharp. Yeah.
So the amplifier, 35 watts per channel RMS.
He's the technical one.
2 speakers really. It was a fairly.
What brand were the speakers?
They were ultra
linear. From England, no?
From a place in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, nice.
There was an electronics company of some sort.
Okay.
And they sold a lot of those speakers throughout America and through Australia and New Zealand as well.
Huge, like they weren't like tower speakers. They were sort of rectangular.
Yeah, they had like
boxes.
a 10-inch woofer or something like that. But they were 3 ways. They actually sounded pretty good. The old man had them up in the corners of each room on a shelf.
They were quite bassy in sound.
Yeah. So they had they were fine. But we spent most of our time listening through that with those Yamaha headphones.
Yeah. But later on, he'd get some Sennheisers with the yellow foam on them. That was like, we felt like we were really professional DJs then. It was unbelievable.
But yeah, so that was sort of our first taste, and the issue with it, we didn't have a turntable at that stage.
Yeah, Appan was the turntable. I don't know where he got it, but it was an Appan, and I've googled Appan. There's heaps of them out there.
Yeah, Appan were a Japanese turntable.
APAN.
Actually, pretty good quality, really.
And it had 2 square buttons, 33, 45. You couldn't play 7.
Yeah, and there was a reject end button over here.
On the other side there, yeah. Was it belt drive?
Yeah, belt drive turntable. Yeah. Had this annoying hum.
Yeah. You'd flick it on, and then you hear the needle hit the vinyl.
Probably had a dry solder that no one could sort out. But
it's great.
It probably transformed things for us, because once we had that, we were then able to.
We could go out and buy vinyl records.
Buy vinyl, really, without any.
Well, we used to when we lived down in Crib Point. We'd do a big shop on a Friday night in Frankston,
Bayside Shopping
which
Centre.
is probably half an hour north towards Melbourne. And there was a Brashes were the big
go-to place for music.
Yeah, there were branches all over the
chain
place.
Sort of music shop.
Allen's was the musical instrument branch
division,
of that company.
And they still have an Allen's.
When I lived in Sydney, there was an Allen's.
In Burke Street, there's one still there.
Yeah, right. But the Brashes vouchers were the big thing to get for a birthday or Christmas.
Yeah, and the Bayside Shopping Centre, typical one, had an anchor store of Myer.
Yeah.
There was probably a supermarket there.
And on a Friday night, they had the stage, and you'd see anyone from Izzy Dye to Shirl might have gotten up there.
Yes, big celebs would turn up.
Tracks of My Tears.
For a Friday night shop, because there was the extended shopping hours kicked in.
And the perennial legend Ray Burgess probably got up and sang Gloria. Yeah, the Van Morrison hit. Ray Burgess.
And the other thing that was interesting about the Bayside Shopping Centre was on the top floor. It was the studios of 3MP, the
3MP,
easy listening
Bay City Radio. MP meaning Mornington Peninsula.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we'd sometimes go and look through the glass.
That's right.
At the DJ.
But they were a funny radio station because they didn't always play great music.
No, they played
all sorts of rubbish.
They played a smattering of top 40, but then all this sort of easy listening, sort of late 60s stuff that probably didn't really appeal to us. But I think Mum liked listening to it.
But we'd flick between 3XY and 3DB. 3DB in the morning with a bloke called Rick Melbourne.
Yeah.
He was great.
He was, with...
Heck Winger. Good morning to you. Oh, good morning. Good mate. Oh, mate.
Yeah, so you had all these radio characters that he...
Yeah.
A little bit like Kenny Everett without it being so...
and he probably had about 8 buttons with stupid sound effects and Dunces of Dan Darrigan. Yeah. Remember they did that Beatles song, If There's Anything That You Want. Yeah, I'll send a goods rail for love from Dan Darrigan to you. Yeah.
If there's anything old Arthur can do, I'll send it goods.
Arthur Dunstan.
I'll send it to you via goods rail with love from Dan Darrigan to you.
Yeah. Sorry, we just got a bit sidetracked there.
I know. It's funny what you remember.
Yeah, 3DB was a sort of... Later on, they go and do the races or... I don't know.
I think 3DB was one of those stations that had probably... It was like 2/3 top 40.
Yeah.
And the rest was sort of older stuff. And we didn't mind that.
And maybe they had a talkback thing late at night where all these people couldn't
like,
sleep would ring
the
in.
Lost and the Lonely,
Yeah. But they had a helicopter in Melbourne. What was the helicopter
the
called?
Flying Tadpole.
The Flying Tadpole.
Yes, everyone would have a sticker on their car with the Flying Tadpole.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
and you'd hear this.
And then they had that. Actually, you bought the 45 single to their jingle.
I did.
Had rhymes. Rhythm of the City.
Yep.
103 dB.
Rhythm.
That's right. That's it. Rhythm of the City. So there you go.
Yeah,
So they were the stations, and Mum and Dad always had we get in the car and the radio was always on the ABC.
Yeah, I think that was at the stage where we had a car with a radio in it, whereas
AM radio.
We're a bit sort of posh back in the late 70s. We're actually a 2-car family, and the old HR didn't have a radio.
Nah.
What it didn't have in a radio, it made up for just brute horsepower, really. Not really. But the old Corona station wagon, the old push button.
The family truckster.
Yeah, probably a 12 transistor radio. And
had air vents.
But it had a pretty good radio. That radio had some great sensitivity.
That was only an AM radio, because there was no FM radio by then.
No, FM really hadn't FM was, back in the late 70s, FM was the domain of those community radio stations.
Yeah.
A bit like what we're doing here.
Yes, we're on. Welcome to Radio Caroline.
Yes, this is your local community radio.
But let's go back. We talk about brushes and the vouchers. I remember the first album. I had some Christmas money, and I had brushes vouchers, and I went and bought JoJo Zeb and the Falcons' Screaming Targets. JoJo Zeb and the Falcons are a great pub rock band. What would you call them? Rhythm and blues, come jazz, come rock and roll.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of jazz thrown in with the R&B, and look, obviously, Joe Camilleri's music tastes were heavily influenced by, the Flying Burrito Brothers and all those sort of
and they did
Chicago-based blue
They
bands,
did a great version of
stuff.
Security by
Otis
Redding. Yeah, that's a
I think that was funnily enough, that was the album you bought.
Yeah,
and then I latched on to into JoJo Zep and the Falcons in a big way.
Yeah.
But so
they had those two big hits, Hit and Run and Shape I'm In,
off that album.
They were big on the radio then.
At that stage, they were probably one of the biggest pulling live bands. In crowd pulling live bands in Melbourne at that stage, and
absolutely
fantastic. And I think I bought live First Under the Wire by Little River Band.
Yeah, okay.
It's funny. I wouldn't say I'm a huge LRB fan, but the thing I remember about that album was the front cover was taken out at VFL Park Waverley.
I've got a version of that, and you look at it and go, oh yeah.
If you happen to see the front of that album, you'll notice the seats with the little round
the numbers or the letter. Yeah.
And that was the iconic part about the seating out at VFL Park Waverley.
Wooden benches with the numbers.
At that stage, LRB had already cracked it big.
I mean they were a pub band too originally.
That's right.
Little River being a little town on the way down to Geelong from Melbourne.
On the Geelong Road.
Yeah.
So they'd already had Reminiscing and all those other hits, and
but they were all part of that, not progressive, but they were that big sounding. Yeah, they had 3 guitarists and bass and big drums.
And they were the transition band from what was Axiom?
Axiom,
all those ones that that Cad and others were involved in.
JoJo Zep and the Falcons, Joe Camilleri, was he in the Palaco Brothers? Was Ross Wilson
Palaco
involved
Brothers.
in that or not?
Palaco, great shirt brand.
Palaco, Richmond.
So there was a number of that sort of time, and really around that sort of late 70s is when the Australian music industry really starts to take off big time. And you start to get the likes of LRB, Air Supply.
You see that go on to world domination.
They start to get that
soft cock rock.
They start to get that that airplay over in the US. So and really the dam wall starts to break not long after.
But other bands, the Sports, bands out of Sydney like the Radiators, those bands came out in the mid to late 70s.
The Midnight Oil was starting to sort of get their sound happening.
I didn't really discover the Oils until probably 80, 81 when guys you went to school with had those records. And I remember we used to, when we were in high school, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but everyone used to lend each other records
swap
and stuff.
Records although you never did it during the summer, because if you did, there's a good chance you'd get a warped record.
Or someone would leave it in the back seat of the car while they went to the beach or something.
You'd drop those as friends pretty quick if that happened. So yeah, that sort of burgeoning Australian music scene really hit its straps in that sort of late 70s.
Absolutely.
And, talk about the sports. I mean, in some respects, the Sports and the Falcons were almost like two competing bands. On the same label.
Sports more rock and roll without the brass sound.
Because the kids on the south side just love the Sports. They don't want to come down. So and you've got the rise of, as we talked about, the record shop of Brash's. So
I mean, the thing with the Sports, they made a lot of ground in England more and Europe more than America. I think the Falcons had a college radio following in the US.
Yeah, well, I think they played at the Monterey Jazz Festival.
Yeah, they were able to spread themselves out in different areas.
They certainly, the Sports were big. Yeah, you're right. They're big in the UK. The Falcons had a much bigger following in the US. And
meanwhile, late 70s, you got AC/DC are going mental in America as well.
That's right.
Yeah, with Highway to Hell. Was that 1978, 79?
Yep.
That really broke them in the US, and we all know what happened after that.
I mean, and funnily enough, 1979, probably a great year for records, for music, particularly Australian music, and you start to get in 79 the emergence of those bands that would pave the way into the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, you got punk bands. This was right in the middle of punk too. The Saints. Saints were the great Australian punk band out of Brisbane.
Yep.
My Six out of New Zealand, they sort of had a punk electronic sound. We love that band because they had a really good guitar sound as well.
That's right, and Split Ends, really, they'd sort of gone past that sort of arty-farty period.
The theatrical bit. Yeah, well, they got Neil Finn.
Once Neil Finn came on, that's when they started to get their pop sensibilities, as it's called.
Yeah.
And 1979, True Colours came out, and it was probably another one of those huge records on the back of the likes of Living in the 70s.
Absolutely. I mean, Skyhawks are still making records then too.
Yeah.
I think by the end of the 70s, though, had Sher left
left in 78, I think, after which one was it?
Straight in a Go-Go World? Or Guilty Until Proven Insane.
Guilty Until Proven Insane with Eddie Leonetti as the producer.
Yeah, and then they started recording. They recorded in Sausalito, California. One of those records.
They did. They recorded Straight in a Go-Go World. Yeah. But interestingly, that Guilty Until Proven Insane, that was the first album where they didn't use Ross Wilson as the producer.
Right.
And they hired an American, Eddie Leonetti. Red Simons had left the band.
Yeah, Bob Spencer came. The legendary guitarist Bob Spencer.
Bob Spencer gave them. Arguably gave the Hooks some balls. So
he had a heavier guitar sound.
Ballsy songs like Women in Uniform.
And Bob Spencer now he plays with Rose Tattoo now.
Yeah. So he gave that sound. But the interesting thing is they were in 1978. They were recording that album. Or it might have been late 77. I can't remember.
But he also played with the Angels too.
They were recording that album in Melbourne, and there was a massive electricity strike in Victoria. The SEC. Great institution.
Yeah.
There was a massive industrial strike in the Latrobe Valley where the generation plant was, and they had a deadline to get this album completed by.
Right.
So about halfway through the album, they moved the production up to Sydney to finish it off.
In Studio 301 or something like that?
AV or one of those ones? I can't remember what it was. But so that's a totally irrelevant and boring side.
Yeah, but it's always good it's always these little one percenters are what counts,
So then we sort of get into we're just there's that sort of uneasiness. What will we be seeing in the 80s?
Well, I mean, but at that time too, the bands out of London like the Clash and the Sex Pistols had come out too, and like punched everyone in the head and gone, "Wake up! You're listening to rubbish. Let's move on to some good stuff."
And and there's those seeds being sown of music coming out of WA and Brisbane and places in Adelaide. Although arguably the Chisel had already sort of.
Well, Cultures had probably moved to Sydney by then, had they?
I think so.
Yeah, but I mean, 1970.
just out of Houston.
The first album, what was that, 76, 77?
Yeah, around that.
Breakfast at Sweetheart, 78, 79.
Yeah, and that's when I get back to 79 as that big year, because we talked about Split Ends and True Colours, but you're also talking about East by Cold Chisel.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic
absolutely.
album.
Yeah. I probably should have listed more records, like hit charts from back then, because there's probably a stack of
79
music.
big year.
Yeah.
And then but that sort of tended. What will be happening in the 80s?
Who was that? What will we be seeing? The Monitors. Were Australian?
Had those two girls, the twins in the film clip.
The Blakely twins. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, bloody hell.
What will we be singing now?
Jeez, I hope they don't sing that again.
Pretty ordinary, I gotta say.
Yeah, 79. Yeah. Great times.
Yeah.
Great times, good rock and roll.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, the Countdown was still the show to watch. We also watched a show with Donnie Sutherland out of Sydney called Sounds Unlimited at the time.
Yeah.
And he'd sit on but Donnie would sit on a couch on a Saturday morning. Clearly hungover. He'd had about 1 hour's sleep. But
Donnie.
They more so than Countdown, he would play bands that you wouldn't ever hear really on Countdown, and bands that wouldn't refuse to go on Countdown would go and done
because Countdown was a bit sort of teeny bopper. And
yeah.
Sounds was a bit more for that. I've just had a big night and I'm just a little bit hungover. I'll get up out of bed at 10 o'clock in the morning and Sounds is on. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and you get guys like Midnight Oil and those guys come and speak to Donnie Sutherland.
So it wasn't like you had to watch one or the other. There was a benefit in watching both Countdown. And Sounds Unlimited.
But we were talking about ABBA before, and the Countdown probably broke ABBA and blah blah. They also broke a great band from New York called Blondie as well. Countdown.
Yeah, I think I remember.
In the Flesh, I think was the. Great, but Blondie were a great band, and I reckon if you spoke to Chris Stein and Debbie Harry, they'd probably acknowledge Australia as their.
Yeah, and I think Australia, the market it was a lot easier to get in and get stuff played. And then have it break in Australia before it broke elsewhere.
Well, I mean, other bands out of the UK like XTC. Oh God, I don't know. There's a stack of them. I should have written these down because there's a heap of good music coming.
Yeah, pretty rich English era. Yeah, that era of music, late 70s into the 80s.
I mean, here you got Kraftwerk out of Germany doing that electronic stuff, Autobahn, all that. Who still play around, a massively influencing band out of Germany.
Yeah, so we're really hitting into our record collection, starting to gather some speed around 1979.
A lot of singles being bought too.
Yep.
The occasional album.
Yeah, and then we're in that sort of the next episode, which is the 80s.
Yep, you'd become a teenager. I was towards the end of primary school, about to start high school. It was all happening.
The struggles of being a teenager.
Yeah. So that's probably a wrap on episode 2, the late 70s.
We've probably forgotten a lot of things, and
we probably have.
But anyway, we'll pick up the pieces in episode 3.
The Tracks of Your Tears.
Or picking up pizzas, one or the other. Yeah, but we'll be picking up either pieces or pizzas in episode 3.
We forgot. Remember, there was a single, the cricket single, "Come On Aussie, Come On." That was massive.
Well, that was
in the late 70s too.
Another 1979
Up There Kazali, the footy one.
Up There Kazali by my mate
Mike Brady,
who I've done the Variety Bash with.
Oh, okay, great Melbourne singer-songwriter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So there you go.
One day in September.
That's probably a wrap on episode 2. Until next time, from me, JVT, and him,
DVT.
Rock on.
Beautiful.
Bye.